respectful. I think one thing I've made, sir, please, please, sir, you're out of line. Please, we're having a legislative hearing here. So, I've said all members of this committee, if they wish, can ask a question. I hope we're respectful about that. So, with that, I'll allow Representative LeGrand.
So, Mr. Giuliani, I really just have one question for you. We heard testimony tonight that you got an affidavit from one of these witnesses on November 8, witness who talked about tens of thousands of ballots being riffed through a machine. We had another witness who talked about ballots being double counted, who said that her affidavit dates back to November 3rd. You opened your statement, you made, in your opening statement, you referenced 700,000 fraudulent ballots in Detroit, which is problematic given that there were only 250,000 counted. My question is, given that we have paper ballots in Michigan, why on earth did you not ask for a recount?
Well, there'd be no reason to ask for a recount because you just recount the same fraudulent ballots. Once you have separated the envelope from the absentee ballot or mail-in ballot, you are forever unable to audit them. That's the reason why it is so critical that they be inspected. That's the reason why from time immemorial that's been done and honored by both political parties and honored in the breach by your political party this time nationwide. 71%. There is no way, when they recounted in Atlanta, they just recounted all of the same fraudulent ballots. There's no way to trace those ballots, and that's why the inspection is so critical. And that's why, please don't, I don't need help.
Sir, please, let's allow the conversation. Let's stop yelling in the crowd. Thank you.
And the reality is, if your political party had not bullied, pushed people around, intimidated people, and stopped them from doing their job as inspectors, this would not have happened.
Thank you. Representative Camilleri.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Giuliani, this committee heard testimony from a bipartisan group of county clerks in Michigan. One was a Democrat and two were Republicans. They testified that they found no evidence whatsoever of widespread irregularities in this election, and they lauded the municipal clerks and their teams who run elections in Michigan for their tireless effort and commitment to free, fair, and safe elections. Your team has now lost 39 court cases in the aftermath of the election, with judges ruling that there is inadequate evidence to support the sweeping claims that you are making and repeating here tonight, and the unprecedented relief that you are seeking. Yesterday, we learned that U.S. Attorney General William Barr has similarly found no evidence whatsoever of widespread irregularities that are worth investigating. If our local clerks, state and federal judges across the country, and the highest ranking law enforcement official in the United States cannot find any substance to or any merit in any of your arguments, why should we? Why should we sit here in this show that you are partaking in and taking around the country if no one has found any evidence whatsoever of any of your wrongdoing? And why should we not believe the reported attempts of you to try to seek a pardon from the president?
What was the last part?
That last part is not relevant.
You're attempting to seek a pardon, so why is this not part of that?
I will ask that he be disciplined for that. First of all,
hold on.
First of all, what he says is untrue. Second, that is a defamation of my professional character. Do you allow that? Do you allow that to happen in your legislature?
As I said,
reported.
As I said, Representative, let's keep it limited to the germane issue here. So, Mr. Giuliani, let me ask the question.
Just for the record, we haven't lost 39 cases. We've only brought 3. So you're wrong about that. Second, the reason why people are reaching those conclusions is because, like you, they don't have the discipline, maybe the intelligence, I don't know, to read through this, and to read 20 more like it. You can't tell me there's no evidence when I have a couple of thousand affidavits from people. You can't tell me that your credibility is better than the credibility of those people. They swore under oath. You didn't. And you seem very, very free to lie.
Mr. Giuliani,
Representative,
I'm just
you have a point of order?
I'm just hoping to get an answer to the other questions about Mr. Barr and others who have disproven a lot of
Representative,
I gave you
do
the
you have a
answer.
point of order?
The answer that I gave you is they didn't bother to interview a single witness. Just like you, they don't want to know the truth. Well, you probably know the truth. I'm worried about their not wanting to know the truth.
Thank you. Representative C.A. Johnson.
Well, I want to take the time to thank everybody and to thank you, Mr. Giuliani. And I will take the time to just give some quotes that some of my constituents made today. Our elected officials should be condemning,
What is your question, Representative?
Sir,
I'm asking you, what is your
no,
question?
I don't have a question. I would like
If
to.
you don't have a question, then we're going to move on, Representative.
No, that is not fair, sir.
Representative
because
Riley, we're
our
gonna move
elected
on.
officials should be condemning, not.
I'm sorry, you're out of order, Representative. You're out of order. You're out of order. You don't have a question, you're out of order. Representative, you're out of order. You're out of order, Representative. You're out of order, ma'am. You're out of order, Representative. Representative Riley.
Thank you. Mr. Giuliani, so I just wanted to make sure that you were aware that there was real concern before this election by many individuals that there was going to be some crimes committed. And I think one of the ways that we saw that is when we realized that the training that was put on really revealed that it was going to be intentional to mislead some of the poll workers, et cetera, the poll on what to do in the situations that were coming up. So prior to the election, when we saw the training, there was some individuals that made it public that they had gone to some of the trainings and reported back, actually had evidence through recording the trainings and said, these people are going to, this is not right. And so it was not until that came out that and a lawsuit or a suit came out that said basically that was taken to the Court of Claims where they had to rule on this to say, you have to allow people to come up and do your job and get within 6 feet to do your job as a poll challenger. It wasn't until that court case had happened. I also submitted an investigation, asked for an investigation from the Secretary of State prior to the election on this very thing. So I think there were some crimes committed when it comes to impeding what a challenger's role is. I believe it's a felony in the state to do that. And we have a responsibility, I believe, to do that. So I just want to make sure you're aware that we saw this coming and there was an effort to head this off.
Well, I appreciate that. Only thing I would say is I believe it's much worse than you realized it was going to be, and it is not confined by any means to Michigan. I mean, this is what you are describing, cutting off Republican inspectors, happened in 10 cities, all Democrat-controlled cities, all cities with a history of corruption, and in numbers that are not insignificant, in numbers like the hundreds of thousands. Enough to change the election.
All right, and I guess Representative Steve Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Mr. Giuliani, for being here today. The purpose of this committee is to search for truth. Whether you like it or not, the goal here is truth. What really happened? In that search for truth are things maybe we aren't happy with, maybe things we are happy with. It's led me to a couple understandings here that are going to probably make people on both sides angry. Number one, starting with Dominion. People that are essentially running our election, refusing to come before this committee and explain themselves. Amen. They are essentially a government contractor. We pay them, I assume, millions of dollars, and yet they will not come before this committee to answer tough questions. Amen. I think at the very least, their contract should be pulled going forward. However, let me continue. We could sit here and we could talk all day long about Dominion, about whether it's accurate, whether there's fraud, whether they're cheating, whether there's foreign influence. And your word is as good as mine. The only way we can actually know for sure whether Dominion actually changed the results of the election is through a hand recount. Now, I understand a hand recount would not, I understand
Let's
that a
let
hand
Representative
recount
Johnson speak, please.
would not find dead people voting, would not find maybe illegal people voting, but a hand recount would determine if 20 votes went in for someone and the machine said 25 votes came out. A hand recount would identify that. And yet 48 hours, you have 48 hours after the vote certification to request the recount, and we never got that. So instead, what we hear is a lot of talk, a lot of thoughts, a lot of allegations, but we had one opportunity to actually do this, and the Trump campaign did not make that request. That's number one. Moving to Detroit, which is where a lot of this has been centered, and rightfully so. What we saw at the TCF Center was absolutely unacceptable. When you see where they are purposely violating a court order regarding the 6-foot rule, a purposeful violation. This isn't some old court order. This was right before the election. They knew darn well about that court order, and they purposely violated that. Chain of custody issues, absolutely huge. To have boxes that are open with ballots, shocking. It's a box. You can't find a box that actually does its job. And then when you see, and there's video proof of this, not only just the testimony today, but you can see it online where when Republicans were being kicked out, they were being cheered. People were cheering when Republicans were being kicked out. And Republicans were not being let in to fill those spots. When you see the number of out-of-balance precincts, out-of-balance counting boards, not just this election, but previous elections as well in the city of Detroit, the citizens of Detroit deserve better. I quite frankly believe their city clerk should resign based off of their...
Representative,
I'm going to
will
get
you
my
ask your
question right here.
All right.
However, looking at the votes in Detroit, the votes that are reported, 2016, Hillary Clinton received 234,871 votes. Biden this year, in a high record turnout year, 233,908. That means Biden received 1,000 less votes than Hillary Clinton, one of the most despised candidates of all time. Trump, 2016, 7,682 votes. 2020, 12,654, a 5,000 vote increase. So, to Mr. Giuliani, my question to you is, looking at all of the issues with Detroit, and there are a lot of them, how can we still justify that there was that mass cheating when still Trump's numbers increased by a net 5% versus years before? If someone were cheating, would those numbers not go the exact opposite direction?
No. He might have increased by 10% if it were a legitimate vote. I mean, he was ahead here. He was ahead here by 300,000 votes, which was a massive surprise. Also, let me go back to why we didn't ask for a recount. Doing a recount of the machines is not going to give us anything but the same false result. What we need is a forensic examination of the machines. Yes! Yes! Number two, this election was, I don't know how much the machines are going to yield anyway. This election was stolen by mail-in ballots. Those are the ballots that were stuck in the machine 8 times, 9 times, 10 times. Look at the numbers. I mean, Biden, I'm guessing now, I've forgotten the numbers here, but Biden got like 80% of the mail-in ballot vote, and Trump got 75% of the election day vote. So we're not going to quarrel with the election day vote. The election day vote is not what stole the election from us. It's the mail ballots, the ones that they wouldn't allow us to inspect. I mean, do you really think, Representative, that they shut us out from inspecting the ballots because they were handling the ballots honestly? I mean, do you really think they en masse pushed us out, put us in corrals, pushed us away, went to court to fight whether or not we can be close to the ballots? You think they did that because they were doing a very careful, honest vote? I doubt it.
I've been very clear that I think there's some major issues there. But when you talk about the...
Yeah, but those major issues, when you look
let
at
him
the
answer the
numbers,
question.
the major issues when you look at the numbers are astounding. Hundreds of thousands of votes were counted there. And I have no idea what a recanvassing of the machines would do for us. A forensic examination of the machines might do something. And in fact, we would like to have the opportunity to look at the rest of those machines in Michigan. I don't know why you're not looking at them. I mean, whatever you want to say about Dominion, read its history. Read the history of Dominion, and you will get an idea of what a crooked company it is, which maybe is the reason they don't want to show up here. They really don't want to tell you that the two of them that own it are Venezuelans, and they brought the two Smartmatic owners, they brought the two guys who are Canadians down to meet Chavez just 2 years ago. They don't want to tell you that. They don't want to tell you about the 5 elections in South America that they fixed. Just read it. Just look it up. Now, I don't know if that really made the difference in the election. I'm not sure. But I do know their plan was to steal this election based on this massive mail-in vote, which, by the way, we have for 20 years been warned against. For 20 years, people wiser than us have said, Justice Souter, President Carter, Secretary Baker, Columbia University. You read reports on what is the most dangerous form of voting. What form of voting can be manipulated, and where can you carry out fraud the most? And it's mail-in ballots. And we were stupid enough to go to mail-in ballots.
All right, Representative Lefebvre.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Attorney Jenna Ellis, Mayor Giuliani, all of the witnesses, committee members, Mr. Chairman, I appreciate everybody coming today. I think this was helpful. I've personally got a lot of things that are troubling as well. But my only question for this last witness is what specifically do you want us to do? Is a year coming here today and saying that based on all of these concerning issues, you want the State House and Senate of Michigan to hand the president the 16 electoral votes for Michigan? Is that what your ask is today?
No, I didn't ask that. I asked that you that you take back your power under Article 2, Section 1, Clause 2 of the Constitution, that you take back that power and that you spend the time, not just to listen, I gave you you shouldn't decide anything based on what I gave you. It's just a sample. It's just a sample of things. There's a plethora of evidence that you can go through that will convince you that this election was stolen. I would ask you to go through that. Don't let it just get taken from us, and then we'll find out a year from now what the real plot was. And take a look, to some extent, at what happened in other states. Because the fact that it's so similar in other states gives you a sense that what we're dealing with here was a plan. Not just an accidental, oh gosh, Detroit stole an election, or Chicago stole an election, or New York stole an election. But I think you have a responsibility to go into session, take back look, the people who certified your election, what are they worth? Can't trust them. Yeah, I wouldn't have put my name on that piece of paper. Not worth anything. The piece of paper's a lie. We all know it's a lie. We know the figures there aren't correct. They're such wonderful public servants, they put their name on a lie. Why don't you spend the time to find out what the right numbers should be?
I guess, Mr. Mayor, my problem is we have these certifiers who I think, and maybe I'm wrong, but at least in one particular example, they didn't feel confident. They certified the vote. And now your ask to the legislature is to take, and if I'm wrong again, tell me, to take evidence that, and put my name to it and say that this is definitely what happened. This is somebody won. I assume it wasn't Kanye West. I don't know. But to figure it out, and you want us to make the decision and then put our stamp of approval on it.
No, I don't want you to do it. The Constitution of the United States says you should do it.
All right,
I don't want you to do it.
please, let's
Read the Federalist
stop.
Papers. It was given to you as the ultimate plenary power because you're the body closest to the people, and therefore the body that they believe could be most trusted to protect the people,
Thank you, Mr.
not the bureaucrats who made that decision.
Thank you.
Representative C.A. Johnson, are you willing to
have
make
a
a
quick
question?
question.
Sure.
Very quick. Mr. Giuliani. Hi again.
Hello?
Do you think that both you and the president are honest men?
Do I really have to answer that question?
Yes.
Representative C.A. Johnson, Representative,
answer it.
Representative, do you have a point of order?
I'm asking the question.
Representative, we're
I'm
not gonna.
asking the question.
We need a
Do you
question
consider
related to the
yourself,
election.
Mr.
Representative,
Giuliani?
Representative, you're out of order, out of order. Representative, you're out of order. Representative, if you want to ask a question about the election, you can ask the question. But that is not about the election. So, do you have a question about the election, Representative?
I can't because this is a show. No, I just can't.
Representative, do you have a, hold on, Representative.
Do you really believe?
Representative, do you have a question about the election? All right, then I'll turn your mic on. Ask the question about the
Mr.
election.
Giuliani. Oh, did you turn it off?
If you have a
Giuliani.
question about the election, ask it.
I can hear you.
Mr. Giuliani. Do you believe that the citizens of Detroit, those who have voted, feel like what you're doing today is disenfranchising or attempting to disenfranchise the citizens of Detroit?
Just the opposite. I would say that trying
Let's
to
let him
separate
answer.
the honest from the dishonest vote is saving the franchise, because every dishonest vote deprives an honest person of their vote.
I agree. I absolutely agree.
Let's let
And
him,
so-
Representative, let's let him answer the question.
Yeah, he just did.
Okay, then
Yeah,
I think,
he just did.
Oh,
And
then-
so I agree with you. Dishonesty is dishonesty, right? Right.
thank you, Representative. All right, Mr. Giuliani, I think that's, the question's for you. I know Jenna Ellis